Hello dear viewer, thank you for joining us for our workshop today. To begin, a little advice from the Singer Sewing Manual from 1949. Prepare yourself mentally for sewing. Think about what you're going to do. Never approach sewing with a sigh or lackadaisically. Good results are difficult when indifference predominates. Never try to sew with a sink full of dirty dishes or beds unmade. When there are urgent housekeeping chores, do these first, so your mind is free to enjoy your sewing. When you sew, make yourself as attractive as possible. Put on a clean dress. Keep a little bag full of French chalk near your sewing machine to dust your fingers at intervals. Have your hair in order, powder and lipstick put on. If you're constantly fearful that a visitor will drop in or your husband will come home, you will not look neatly put together, you will not enjoy your sewing.
Hello, thank you for joining me and welcome to our first online workshop. So today, here at Aunty Flo, we're going to talk you through step by step how to make a cloth sanitary pad. These are the pads that we make and sell. We also make them and distribute them in Uganda to girls in some of the schools that we work closely with, particularly the Uganda School for the Deaf. We also teach the girls there in Uganda how to make their own so that they've got some ownership and they can take some responsibility for ensuring their own access to a healthy and hygienic period. So we are going to talk you through step by step how to find the instructions, how to download, how to select your fabric, and take you through step by step on how to make your very own cloth sanitary pad. So the first thing you need to do is go to our website www.auntyflo.org.uk, and if you click on our downloads page you'll find our cloth sanitary pad pattern, and when you print it out, the basic regular one looks like this, and you're going to need to print 2 copies of this because you're going to initially cut out this regular pattern for today's workshop, and you're also going to cut out this central batting, so you should end up with 2 pieces like this. You will also need to download our instruction manual for the construction of an eco-friendly, terribly nice cloth sanitary pad. So, a little word about fabrics. In order to make your cloth sanitary pad, you're going to need a selection of different fabrics ready. You're going to need your top layer, which is the layer that goes next to your skin, your absorbent layer. You're going to need a waterproof layer if that's what you choose to put in, but that's not essential. And then generally a backing layer, which is the bit that then just goes in line with your knicker fabric. The great thing about what we do with Aunty Flo is that we, as much as possible, use repurposed, pre-loved fabrics. So it's okay to experiment because a lot of the time the kind of stuff you are experimenting with would probably have gone to landfill anyway. Thinking about your fabrics. So your first top layer, this is the layer that goes next to the skin. This needs to be absorbent, it needs to be comfortable, it needs to be breathable. So generally you are looking at softer fabrics and 100% cotton. So some of the ones that we've used in the past include these. So we've got nice flannelette bedding, old bedding that's been cut up and used. We've got some plain fabrics. We've got some that have previously been pyjama fabrics, gorgeous, glamorous, nice, soft, and you can get that feel. These are lovely to wear alongside and next to your skin and quite breathable. Another option, this is also a nice flannelette, so lots of pyjamas type things and beddings. Another option is fleece. Fleece is incredibly comfortable to wear and it will go through. You can argue the merits in terms of eco-friendly products. There are issues around microplastics with fleeces, but also, again, if we are reusing and repurposing fabric that would otherwise have gone to landfill, then hopefully we're sort of counteracting that. These are offcuts from old IKEA blankets. This one was a nice snuggly blanket, one of those with lovely sleeves. So there's lots of options. These are incredibly comfortable to wear next to the skin, and surprisingly, they're not over over warm, they're not too uncomfortable in warmer weather. So lots to choose from there. Okay, so next up is your absorbent layer, and that can be, again, a whole variety of different cloths and fabrics. Again, we're looking where possible to repurpose and using things that we've got to hand or we can easily access through either dead stock fabric, offcuts, even charity shops, and again, old bedding. So again, you're looking for a nice, really absorbent fabric. So some of the things we've tried to use or we've worked with is toweling. So you've got just regular old towels or flannels. Cotton t-shirts and jerseys. These again are cotton. They're not 100% cotton. Obviously, they've got a bit of stretch and give, but these work quite nicely in layering up, and they're quite lightweight. Again, we have used fleece, comfortable to wear and nicely absorbent, or the good old bedding sheets. We've also got cotton batting that's used in quilting. So again, 100% cotton, absorbent, soft and really nice and lightweight, so that's good. So lots of options, and this is one where we cut multiple layers, and this is where you can alter the pattern quite beautifully according to your personal need. So lots of options there for your absorbent layer. Now your waterproof layer is optional. It's not 100% necessary. It's a lot easier if you do include it, but if you don't have access to those fabrics, you can use the pads, you can make the pads, and they're perfectly wearable without. You just have to be a little bit more vigilant about checking them. So what do we use for our waterproof layer? If we are being completely repurposing and very, very wholesome, we have included things like umbrella fabric, we've used shower curtain fabric, and lots of other options that are available. The other thing, and this is generally the one bit that we do buy as a new fabric product, is PUL, polyurethane laminate fabric. You'll find it used on things like washable nappies, lots of baby things that are made for reusing and reducing single-use plastic. So quite often you can buy it in packs of quite often like 3 pieces, sort of fat quarter style, but you get some great prints. So we've got some very crazy little monsters, if that's what you'd like. And you can see you've got kind of a soft fabric outer layer, and on this side that's where you've got your polyurethane laminate side, so you've got that shiny bit. So you've got a whole selection of these. These I usually find in places like Amazon for around about £12 or £13 for 3 pieces. So there's lots of variations there. There are plain colours available as well. We've also bought it in bulk. We've bought it from America. Not great on the carbon footprint, but good for buying in bulk, because it can be quite expensive. So again, a plain white one with the polyurethane side. Another alternative, which is available locally here in Faversham, and I'm sure you can get it in lots of other places as well, is this one, which has a terry toweling backing. So you've got your shiny side here, your waterproofing side, but also you've got a little bit of added absorbency, which is really helpful. So there's lots of options there, and we'll look at how we piece those together as we move through the pattern. Okay, and our final layer is our cotton backing. So this is the bottom layer of the pad, which goes right next to the fabric of your underwear. On our earlier pads that we started to make, we just used this waterproof layer as the outer layer. But what we have found, and a number of people have fed back, is that sometimes this is a little bit slippy and slidey. And so we benefit quite often from just putting a cotton outer layer just to create a little bit of friction, and that helps to hold the pad in place a little bit more securely. So again, generally we've gone with 100% cotton where possible, and all of these are actually offcuts, leftovers from other products. So whether that's that we've made wax wraps or some of our face cloths or toilet bags, then these are often the offcuts, quite useful from things like fat quarter projects as well. Some of this fabric is also from dead stock fabric. So these were donated by a fabric salesman, a fabric rep, and these are some of his swatches that he takes around to the shops. So again, you've got a whole variety of patterns and prints. You can make, you have as much fun with this as you possibly can, and play around, and don't be afraid to try different things. Once you get a hang of working with the pattern itself, the joy is you can chop and change it. You can make it smaller, make it bigger, make it thicker, make it thinner, according to your own use and your own needs. When you've got your pattern piece cut and ready, you're going to select your top fabric. So this is again the piece that goes next to the skin. I've chosen this nice paisley pyjama print, and I'm going to put that face down. We've cut a piece just around the top, a little bit bigger than the pattern itself. Put that onto the wrong side, and as you can see, here's one I made earlier, drawn around that pattern piece. We're not going to cut that out at this point. That's actually going to become your sewing guideline. So we're going to keep that piece as it is, and that will be your top layer. Next in line is your core piece. So this is the bit that will be your main absorbency for the pad itself. For this one, I've opted for, again, cotton flannel, and because we're working with just a sort of medium regular flow pad, then I've opted for 4 layers. So we've put it together, we've pieced it together, and you can see we've got 4 layers of the cotton, cut, drawn around, and cut out. So those pieces are ready to go. And the first step that we're going to do is we're going to take our piece face down and just place that as centrally as we can manage. And then with our pins at the ready, just put a couple of pins in to anchor your main core piece there. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the sewing machine to begin our work. We're going to sew all the way round here. Now I'm going to use a zigzag stitch because, for one thing, I don't know if you can see there, it's quite decorative on the finished piece, but also you'll find that as you're going, if you're not always that confident at keeping a straight line, it's quite a good catch-all for then just keeping all that fabric nice in. So off we go to the sewing machine.
So once we've got our material in place, we're going to use a quick forward and backward motion just to anchor that stitching and stop it from coming undone, and we're going to sew down this line and all the way around the outside. That's nicely secured and anchored into place. The next thing we're going to do is sew 2 straight lines, still using our zigzag stitch, down the centre, and that will help to wick away any moisture from the top layer when it's in use. Trim off any loose ends and we're all set for the next stage.
Okay. So we've got our core piece stitched into place on our top layer of fabric, and we've also got these 2 tram lines, and when the pad is in use that will help to wick away any moisture from the skin and from that surface level. What we're going to do now is put our pad together. So we're going to turn our piece over so that we've got the right side on top, and then we're going to take the cotton that we selected for the bottom layer and put that so that our pieces are right side together. So you can see I haven't drawn round anything on this, I've just cut the fabric to make sure that our pattern piece does in fact fit into that cutting. Working this way does create some extra offcuts and additional landfill fabrics, but what we tend to do is gather those up and we use them as much as possible in making things like pin cushions, or filling cushions for the garden, all sorts of things we've used them for. So we do try and avoid any of our waste fabrics going to landfill. As you become more confident with the pattern, you can start to cut a slightly smaller piece and reduce that landfill bit by bit. We're going to then put our waterproof layer in. So this one I've opted to use is the polyurethane laminate side here, and then the terry toweling side here, which you can see is a lovely fabric. This is going to go this way with the shiny side down, so that will create your barrier layer on the outside. This gives you an extra little layer of absorbency to your core. So if we turn those over together, and then we're going to just pin in each corner of our fabric piece. So we're not actually pinning into the patterns at this stage. Try and keep all your layers nice and as flat as possible so we don't get any little kinks. And then you can just run a check around here. So there's our outer line, that's the stitch line we're going to use, and we've got plenty of spare at each edge. Okay, so we're going to put this into our machine, this way. We're going to start sewing about here, and I've put a little pen mark there just to give me a pointer. I'm using a straight stitch. We're going to follow this line as our guide all the way around until we get to around about here. So we're leaving probably about 2 to 3 inch gap here, a little marker there, and that's where we will turn once we are all together. So time to sew again. So as we said, everything in place. There's our marker, and we're going to line it up. If you are not familiar with using your sewing machine, if this whole thing is very new and exciting, what you often find is this pedal here, this foot here, we've got a nice line guide, and when we've moved our stitch to a straight stitch, you can see the needle has lined up with that. So all we're going to do is follow that line all the way through. So let's go. So now we've got to this far, you can see we've got our nice opening here. We can remove all our pins. And now we're going to use our pinking shears. Don't worry if you haven't got any of these, but they are really handy. You've got that lovely zigzag cut to the blade, and you'll see we're going to work around the pattern, and we're going to cut quite closely to our stitch line, and that reduces the bulk when we come to turn our pad, and again makes it more comfortable to wear. So we're going to start here, and as you can see, quite close to the line to follow. And that also means, because we've got that lovely zigzag, that when we turn the fabric in, it has a lot more give, and those zigzags will close in, so you get far less bulk and gathering. Now, when I get to the opening, I'm actually going to go a little bit wider, like this, if you can see. And then when we turn our pad later, that just helps those edges to turn in on themselves for when we need to stitch them closed. So again, all little hacks that help make it a much simpler job. So that's our little bit of landfill, but again, it won't go to landfill. It'll go to be a cushion cover, no doubt. So there we've got our piece, and you can see we've got our opening, and you can see our 3 layers. 1, 2, 3. Here's our top, here's our bottom, and this is where we're going to turn our pad inside out. It might be a little bit fiddly, this part, but think of it as like a little butterfly coming out of its cocoon. It's a beautiful thing. It's very exciting. So nice and simple, and then you're just going to use your finger, or you might want to use a pen or a crochet hook or a knitting needle or something, just to get those edges and those seams pushed all the way out, just to make sure you've gone and got all of the edges nice and clear on those seams. And then you can see it's starting to take shape. It's starting to look like a pad, which is really exciting. Here you can see on those edges where we've got our opening, we can just fold it in on itself quite nicely. Now you could hand stitch that. There's not really any need, because what we're going to do next is we're going to top stitch all the way around, just to help the pad to keep its shape and to keep it nice and smooth and comfortable to wear. Just checking all those edges. And there, look, it's starting to look exciting. So we've made it this far, and there's our opening. We're just going to squeeze that together. If you want to, for a little bit of confidence, you can pop in a little pin there just to keep it all together, but generally much of this will do it for you. So we're going to give that a nice squeeze, again making sure we've got right to that seam, and we're going to pop that in place, ready to sew. Now this is where we get a little bit tricky. Take it as slowly as you need to, and what we're going to do is, using our straight stitch, we're going to top stitch all the way around the whole pad. Okay. And there we have it, our pad, all in place, all edged. You can see hopefully where we've got that nice edge, and we are almost there. Last part of our work of art is adding our poppers. There are alternatives. You could use press studs, you might use a small button and a loop. You think about it, it's up to you. We're using the poppers. These come in packs with lots of different colours, all separate out, usually about 400 pairs for around 12 or 13 pounds. Again, Amazon, eBay, similar places, and they come with your handy bradawl and the tool for fitting them. So we've got our pad, here we are, here's our upper side, and these are our lovely wings that will eventually wrap round and fasten on the back. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one side. With the first one, it really doesn't matter which way you do. If it's easier to just follow your instructions that you get on your pack, that's fine. But a few things that we've learned from experience. So we're going to make our hole with our little bradawl tool, make it nice and clear, and we're going to take one of our back pieces and poke that through like so. And then on the back, you're then going to take one of your inner pieces, and we're going to squeeze that over so you can see you've got the spike there. Take your tool, the smooth bit goes on the black base there, and then really tight squeeze. Oh, give it all you've got, and a bit of a squeak, and you can see hopefully that spike has been squashed down. Now the important thing now is which way to do the opposite side. Okay, so you need to make sure that whatever you do here, it's the opposite here. So if we were to do the same, obviously when you fasten that, that ends up like that, which you really don't want. So whatever you've done on this side, you're going to do the opposite. So on this side, there's that smooth outer, so it's going to go on this side here. So again, just double check that those will line up nice and straight. We're going to go around about there. There's our hole. Make sure it's nice and clear. Poke it through, and then the other bit is going to squeeze over there, and again we're going to just pop that on, squeeze it tight, and again we can see that the spike has been flattened, and that's going to hold it all in place. And so fold over, and ta-da! Your beautiful handmade cloth sandwich towel. Well done you. So if you choose to run your own group, brilliant, go for it. Make sure you take lots of photos, share them on our Facebook page, get in touch, and if there's any way we can help, we certainly will. We'd love to see photos of your efforts. If you feel like getting a group together where you might be able to make a whole batch of pads to send to us, you can find details of where to send them on our website. Thanks for taking part. It's great to see you. Bye now.
You have just completed your first cloth sanitary pad workshop. Tell me about your experience.
It was very exciting, very rewarding, and yeah, interesting actually, and good fun. Really good fun. Well worth doing.
Did you sew before?
No, never.
Never? So you've
Not
never used a
even a
sewing machine?
button.
Right, shall we do some, let's do some close-ups then on this, because this is for someone who has no experience of sewing, and also you've got some lovely prints there. You've got a sheepy one, and you have your favourite.
No drama llama.
No Drama Llama. Thank you so much for getting involved today.